everybody, and happy new moon in Aries. We're going to be talking about the new moon in Aries, and I will be doing horoscopes for all 12 rising signs. So let's just start off with the new moon. The new moon is a time when we're setting an intention, where we start this 28-day lunation cycle all over again. So we're starting it with planting the seed, which is what we're doing in the sign of Aries. It's going to be the first new moon of the astrological year that actually starts with Aries. This is a time that we're going to have action to start something, or we're going to be putting a lot of energy into the beginnings of something new. It could be the theme of this upcoming astrological year for you, or you could just be doing it for this particular lunation. So we have a stellium right now in the sign of Aries, which means a lot of planets are conjunct. They're kind of blending their energies together. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have Venus, and we have Mercury, all kind of working together in this sign. What should we expect, or what's the feeling of a moon in Aries? So you might have this natally also. You might have a natal moon in Aries as well. So it is the engaged heart. So when we talk about the moon, we're often talking about things that have a softer feature, something that's more receptive, something that's a container that holds, the container for our emotions, the container for our feelings, how we express ourselves, what are the things that we're drawn to, and how we draw things to us. When it's in the sign of Aries, that's a little bit more of an active energy, that sun energy. The sun is actually exalted in Aries, so there's a lot of fire energy that moves forward with this. With having the moon and also having Venus in the sign of Aries is a place, especially for Venus, as I've talked about in my previous videos, she's fallen in Aries. And the moon has an interesting kind of relationship with Aries, because the moon typically likes to just pull things towards it and just exist, where Aries really energy is more about, like, you know, going out there and making things happen, because it is Mars ruled. So we have an engaged heart at this point. We have a heart that's not afraid to tell people what they want, what they don't like, what they desire, what they love, to express love, telling people how you feel, being truthful about how you feel, telling somebody that you're in love with them, telling somebody that the relationship isn't working out particularly the way that you want it to, so you want to change and you want to do something new with it. It's an open and direct heart. It's not so much hiding. It's not so much like making people figure out what's going on. It really kind of sort of tells you what things are. There's an intuitive and instinctual aspect to the moon, and just in general. And when the moon is in the sign of Aries, it more is acting on that instinct. So it will feel something and it will directly do something in response to the stimulus. So it definitely has a little bit more of like that reptilian brain quality, where it can be quite reactive to stimulus. So even if there's hurt or perceived hurt, it would react and say something or do something. It's, you know, to lash out, to protect, and so forth. It likes to give a lot of times more than receive at this time. So you might be feeling like you want to, you know, donate time or donate an ear for someone that's going through something, or just to help out, to really kind of like actively be of service. It has a very childlike quality. It is an assertive quality. It's because there is kind of an independent qualities to Aries, where it's able to kind of just do what it wants to do by itself, and sometimes it likes to work a little bit more alone. There's a leadership quality too with this energy, so you might feel called to lead, or you might have an emotional pull to lead something that has to do with emotions, facilitating people talking about their emotions, or having a better quality of life, or something like that. That might happen. There can be a fighting nature to it. So, you know, again, if something's bothered, or if you perceive something, or if you see something wrong, you might get in there and say, no, this is not okay, or protect someone. You know, with Aries is that warrior energy. And so instead of using the warrior in a way to like conquer and defeat and to steal land and to massacre people, it's more about a defensive stance. Like, I'm defending where I am and who I am. I'm defending those that I love. I'm defending this group of people. I'm standing up to systems that are oppressive. So you might have some of that kind of thing. Definitely action oriented, want to do something. And it's not afraid to take a risk with the heart, you know, not afraid to put something out there, not afraid to go after the passions, to go after the thing that you want. You might have had like a latent desire for someone, for something, and then you're just like, you know what, I want to go after that. I want to pursue that. I want to kind of throw caution to the wind and jump into it. So it is an active heart. So think of it like that. So some of the aspects that we have, the moon is sextile Mars. The moon is also sextile Jupiter. We have a Mars trining Jupiter. So we have all of these, you know, kind of interesting energies with the moon sextiling Mars. Mars is pushing pushing the energy, giving you even more energy right now, right? Because Aries is ruled by Mars, to go out and activate and create this new thing. Since it is a new moon, it's a new thing that you're working, or you're refining the thing that you already have, or it's a new side to the thing that you have. With the sextile with Jupiter, it's just more expansive. It's bringing better luck, a better quality of time that you're having together. Like, you're really able to maximize on the connections that you have to get the thing that you want. But with all that being said, and with a lot of the supportive energy that you have, we still have all of these planets squaring Pluto, specifically closer in aspect, Venus squaring Pluto, which I did mention in an earlier video. So with all of the positive energy towards creating something new and creating a change in your life, with Pluto there, so there is a power dynamic that can be very difficult. You can have a butterfly cycle, which I like to call the death and rebirth cycle, where you lose something and you have to rebuild again. Or just something that's kind of like in the way of you getting what you want. Out of all of the planets that tend to be a little bit happier, Venus is the least happy in this placement, because she is in Aries and not able to kind of sort of bestow the gifts that she normally does. So even though a lot of outside things might be working really well for you, some things that have to do with love or relationships or partnerships might still be very strained. And that, again, relationships and partnerships, I mean with intimate lovers, and also with like family and with work and things like that. So let's go through all of the signs, kind of break this down sign by sign, and we're starting with Aries. So for Aries, this energy, this stellium, all of these planets in the sign of Aries is happening in your first house. So in your first house for Aries, you're really taking the initiative to, like, you know, get things done personally for yourself. So it could be a new mode of thinking. It could be a new kind of practice for yourself, a new exercise routine. The first house a lot of times has to do with like our physical self and our bodies. So if you've been feeling like, you know, you haven't been as healthy as you wanted to be, so you might be getting on like a new diet or a new exercise routine. It could be a new haircut. It could be a new you know, hairstyle or a new color. It could be just physical style, like you're changing your clothes. You're just changing around like how you are perceived, like how you are seen in the world. And so there's a lot of focus that's kind of put on that. What's going to be supporting this is Mars is going to be sextiling from the third house. And so this is going to be supported by like the way that you communicate and how you say what it is that you desire. It could be supported by your siblings, by your neighbors. You can have like a support system that helps you with, you know, this transformation maybe that you want to make. It could be maybe having like an accountability partner that's a sibling, or that's like a neighbor, or like going to walk with your neighbor or something like that. Or also just communicating out into the world what you want to do, and maybe having everyone be that accountability partner. Where things are going to be a little bit bumpy, or you'll have a challenge, is what's happening with Pluto, which is in your 10th house. And so that has to do with like job, and that has to do with career, or how you're seen in the world, the way that you're seen from in a perspective of power for yourself. So it could be challenging job wise in terms of bosses, because we often see like difficult power dynamics, typically with your boss, the leader of your team, the leader of your group. It could be like a really difficult client if you're an entrepreneur, a person that maybe you're getting items from, like that, just someone that you're in an interesting power dynamic with, that might be changing. You also might have just a change in your job, like a kind of ending of a certain part and then an opening up of another part. So that's where this challenge, and that's what's going to kind of sort of temper things. The other, though, sense of support that you'll have is the Jupiter in the 11th house, which is your house of community and network. So you will have people that are in your corner that will be supporting you through this. So even if there might be like a power dynamic at the job or surrounding your job, or how you're seen in terms of your status, you will still have people that are there that are supporting you with that. And that you know, you'll have this community of allies that will be able to support you or see your side and help you through whatever kind of challenge that you're going through. So Aries, best of luck with that. Next up, we have Taurus. So Taurus, this stellium is hitting you in your 12th house. So Taurus is having essentially maybe a dark night of the soul, an existential crisis of self. Who am I? What is this? What the fuck is going on right now? Taurus risings, my heart are with you. You know, 12th house stuff is always where things are hidden, where things, you know, where you feel exiled, whether that's a physical sense of you withdrawing, or whether that's like a psychological sense of you pulling away from reality and what's happening. But it does it is the place, it's the house of undoing, you know? So there is this like existential crisis that you're having about self and why you're here and what you're doing and does this matter, and just trying to piece all these things together. So I would say for Taurus rising, which is going to be very different from all the rest of the signs that we're discussing, might be a real good time to kind of sort of step back. What you want to start new is your self-care, is taking care of yourself, is walking yourself through all of these different things as you're letting a lot of things go, because that's what happens. So I kind of like call it like a spiritual Marie Kondo type of space where you're just keeping the things that spark joy, and the things that don't, you're kind of saying thank you, and then you're letting them go. And that's something that you're going through, and it can be deeply emotional, and it can also, more than anything else, feel deeply isolating. So even though you might want to reach out, you just don't feel that, it's something that you might have to go through on your own. So just give yourself everything that you need as you go through, this time that can be, a little bit rough. However, you do have some support. So your support is coming with Mars, which is giving you that kind of like energy. And the good thing is that financially things seem to be okay. Your assets, your finances, your home, all of those kind of comforts, and all the way that you're self-reliant, that's supportive of you right now. So maybe you are able to get the counseling you need, go take a day trip or a week trip or 2-week trip somewhere so that you can just clear your mind and be okay, or go to rehab, or whatever the situation is that you need to escape to kind of be okay. At least that part of your life seems to be, it's in a solid place. The challenge is coming from Pluto, which is in the 9th house for you. The 9th house is a spiritual house. It's a house of the guru. It's a house of like education, and also travel, or long distance travel, or spirituality, or leadership, whether you're being the guru or whether you're being the student. So there could be, while you're having this crisis of self, it can also lead into a deep crisis of spirituality, of your personal philosophy, of your religion, renegotiating things. Do you believe the same things that you believe before? If you feel that you're having a dismantling of your core belief systems, and whatever that is, it could be religion, it can be spirituality, again, it can be just your philosophy, how you thought things worked, how you thought the way worked, how you thought the way that the world worked, how you thought that people communicated with each other. All of those things can be kind of falling apart. We a lot of times have an idea of how things work, and when suddenly they don't work the way that we think, or they're not as predictive, it can really be a crisis for us, because it means that everything that we built our lives off of suddenly is non-existent. So if you're in that position where you're having this crisis of self and crisis of like your higher mind, definitely taking that time and allowing for you to go through that process, and knowing that you're going to come out on the other end. All of us at some point are going to go through, all of the signs will have a 12th house time. So know that you're not alone. This is just your time that you're having it. Another support system that's going to happen for Jupiter, it's in the 10th house. And another thing that's just supportive of you is the career. So, with the second house stuff, in terms of like finances being pretty solid, and also with your career or your job or your business, your leadership roles, those things are solid for you. But it also might be really difficult to kind of like step up into the leadership if you're having so much personal self-doubt, which is something I think that every leader goes through. Like, do I deserve to be here? That kind of questioning self, questioning if you deserve that. All of that comes from, wondering who you are and why you're here. That's all kind of sort of 12th house stuff. Know that people are looking up to you. You do have something of value to give to people, so you can still step into that leadership role. You still can do that even though you're kind of struggling with all of these things. And you might even do it just letting people know that you're struggling through all those things, because it just makes you human. Okay, so best of luck to you, Taurus rising. All right, next up we have Gemini rising. So this is hitting you. The stellium is in your 11th house, your house of friendships, your house of networks, your house of kind of community, of the way that people work together, and also your house of hopes and wishes and dreams. So there might be a new thing that you're going after, a new dream. You might be trying to create a community. It could be like a new theater group, or a startup, or a new business, or, but something where you're working with other people. There's energy around group things for you, and so that's where this focus is going to be, in new groups and new networks. So the thing that's supporting Mars from the first house, you're going to find strength in knowing who you are. So a lot of the personal work that you've been doing over the past couple of weeks about yourself and who you are and what you're doing, and especially even if it's about your physical self, so maybe you've been taking better care, or been thinking about taking better care of your body, the food that you're eating, the exercise that you're getting, all of that, the personal work that you've been doing is going to pay off, because now that you've done the personal work, you can really kind of orchestrate these group situations. So that's going to be good. You can really rely on yourself and know who you are, and know what you want to put out into the world, so then you can start organizing. The things that's going to be challenging with this, Pluto is in the 8th house. So that's going to be the house of shared resources. So if in kind of connecting people and having these groups, if you're depending upon them for financial things, that might be kind of where the bull is kind of sort of holding back a bit. So watch things that are of shared resources, which could be money, and or things that are shared value, which could be information or things that you're building. If you've had situations before in the past where things, you put these groups together, yet the money situation was off and it didn't work, or you didn't know how financially you were going to charge or whatever, and it didn't work out, it didn't work out good, you could be looking at this as, oh my gosh, this is going to be a repeat of the same thing. So you're going to have to kind of sort of work through that. It could also be a power dynamic. Whenever you have groups, there's always like, who's the boss, who's making the choices, who's doing this. If you put it together, are you the leader? Do people have a say? What does that structure look like? Again, having that death and rebirth cycle. So it could be maybe letting go of an old group and then coming into a new group and creating a new group. So just things that you want to be aware of. Another thing that's going to be supportive of you is the ninth house, Jupiter in the ninth house. So that's going to be essentially you feeling really grounded in where you are just in a spiritual sense. So much of your success with your networks and your communities, or the things that you want to build, your clients or whatever, is really going to have to do with you being secure and activating from your personal self and also from your spiritual self. Or it could just feeling like you know all the lessons and you know what you're doing. So you've taken that class, or if you were the type of person that's been like taking class after class after class and study, now all of this is going to kick in. You have all the information that you need. Go ahead and start it. No need to like wait on that thing. So best of luck to you, Gemini. Next up, we have Cancer. Cancer, your activation is happening for this lunation cycle in the 10th house. So that's going to be in your house of career, how you are presented to the world, and having to do with like authorship, authority, entrepreneurship, self-starter, leadership, any type of way that you're seen as a leader or in your career or with your job. So you're going to see something new in that. It could be a new position, it could be a new responsibility, it could be a new job altogether, a new part of the business that you're now running, or something new that you're opening up. So you'll see some activation with there. The things that are going to support you with Mars in the 12th house will be working behind the scenes emotionally. So you would have been doing some of this deep interpersonal work that we talked about kind of with Taurus rising. So some of that need to go within and figure out who you are, and the dismantling of who you are and the putting that back together. That could be a sense of strength for you and your new thing. So especially if you're, for Cancer, if you're like helping people out, or if you have like some sort of business, like a health or healing type of business, sharing your dark night of the soul journey is going to be something that's going to really support that. So the darkness or the things that you have been through that was rough, you're going to find that that's going to be very supportive in this new venture that you're building. The thing that's going to be challenging for you is going to be in the 7th house. So for 7th house stuff, that's relationships, partnerships, things that have to do with like lovers or any kind of partnership with work or whatever. What is challenging with that is, you trying to figure out how you're balancing your interpersonal relationships with the job. If that has been a challenge, that's something that you're going to see coming up. It could have to do with power dynamics. It could have to do with like the changing over of the guard, because that happens, whenever Pluto's involved. So it could be a change or a shift in your relationship. If it was a situation where, you're trying to balance like work, which is taking a lot because it's this new thing, and you're trying to figure out how to fit that into your relationships. It could look like potentially like moving in with somebody to spend more time with them. It could look like, the relationship needs to end so that I can focus on work or whatever, but it definitely is going to be this interesting dynamic between relationships and jobs and what those two things means, or relationships within the job. Something that'll be supportive though with Jupiter in the 8th house would be your shared resources, your boundaries that you've been working on and building. That'll support you as you're working on your job. So allowing yourself to use those shared resources for the benefit, that's going to be something that is helpful. So that you're not financially in it or even just time in it by yourself. You're working with somebody else to kind of sort of get those things done. So it could look like a partnership. You brought maybe somebody in, like maybe your business is rocking, but you're like, I can't do it all by myself. You need to bring it in, or you joined your business with someone else. That's going to be something that would be supportive for you at this time. So best of luck for Cancers. Next up, we have Leos. So this is going to hit you square in your 9th house For Leos, ninth house stuff is all about like action and getting out into the world. It could be about, and this is for Leo risings, going back to school, starting something new, and in ninth house, new things. So starting, going on a journey or going on a long trip, but a trip that's something that has something to do with you gaining some knowledge. So it could be like a retreat or something where you get something from that or you learn something from that, especially if it's spiritual. It can be going back to school, taking classes, taking courses. It could be, you know, following a new spiritual leader or something like that. It can be you being a guru or you starting classes or lessons or things like that, like kind of sort of stepping into that aspect of your spirituality as you are mentoring or you're creating something for other people to learn. So you could be stepping up into guru status. You could be the student where you're learning from someone else. All of those things have to do with what's happening new for you in your ninth house. What are the things that are supporting that with Mars kind of leading the way from your 11th house is going to be your network, your community, your peers. So if it's a new business that you're starting, you know, you want to reach out to your peer and to your community. Building your community is going to be supportive of you during this time and building kind of alliances with you. And that's going to be supportive in kind of getting out this new thing that you want to get out with you for ninth house related stuff. And ninth house stuff oftentimes can be very service oriented in terms of you helping people. But where the challenge might come from is the sixth house. The sixth house is a house of health or the house of illness sometimes. So even though you're busy, it could look like working too much and working too hard and being very stressed out. It can mean like your health or not necessarily taking care of yourself, eating well, getting the exercise that you need. So even though you have all these like fun, amazing things that are happening that you're starting, like ninth house fun stuff, and you have this community, you want to just make sure that you're focusing on the things that are going to heal your body. And also could be about your routines and about your systems that you have in place, the things that you're doing over and over again. Are you as organized as you should be? Are you happy with the way that your health is? You know, how is that getting in the way? How are you negotiating those kinds of things? So you definitely want to focus on like health stuff because that's going to be important. One of the other things that are going to be supportive to you at this time is Jupiter in the 7th house, which is your personal partnerships and your relationships. So your network is going to support you. Your network is kind of sort of the people on the outside. Your partnerships, people you're kind of an intimate partnership with, they're going to be very supportive of you. So it looks like it's going to be a really good time because you're going to have this really great outside support for you, but you just have to make sure that even though you're kind of trudging along and doing this, that you're taking care of yourself and that you're taking care of your health and you're not like overworking or overdoing things, because then that can kind of sort of take you out for everything. So best of luck for you, Leos. Okay, so next we have Virgos. Virgos, this is happening in your 8th house. So your activation or the new thing that you're creating for this lunation cycle for you, Virgo risings, is intimacy. It could have to do with shared wealth. It could have to do with finances. You're really stepping into yourself, stepping into your power, stepping into potentially maybe your sensuality. You could be going through a death rebirth cycle in some sense that has to do with something where you're letting something go that you've been attached to for a long time and you're starting something new. It could be the purging of things, like just clearing out things that are toxic in your life and creating new systems for yourself too that work so that you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. What is going to support it is going to be Mars in your 10th house. And so that is going to be a career drive. So like something about like your job, maybe it's a new responsibility that requires you to really do some kind of personal work about like where you are and what you need to do and what your finances look like. So you know, jobs a lot of times can push us into just being a different person because we suddenly have a different responsibility. We're in a leadership position. We're physically seen, like we're the face of something. That a lot of times happens with 10th house things, where you become the face of the product, the face of the brand, the face of the business, or the face of your group that you're working in, your little cohort at work. With your challenge with Pluto in the 5th house is going to be from your intimate relationship, your family, your children, inner child wounds, or just, you know, the ability to have fun and balancing that. When we have that kind of Pluto in the fifth house, that can be like power dynamics within your family, you know, and or with your kids, and how you're kind of sort of negotiating all of these things, especially if you're having like a big change in like the essence of who you are in terms of like how you want to work with resources, or you're changing something new. Sometimes that can be a little bit like weighing on your family, so that what you'll probably see like that being a little bit of a challenge. Fifth house is a house of pleasure, and so it's like the new thing that you're developing is like intimacy, if that's specifically where it is, or finances, and those things tend to be associated with pleasure. So your relationship between like money and pleasure, or like intimacy and pleasure, you might see that pop up for some of you guys. Where you'll see some also support is from the sixth house, and Jupiter is in the sixth house. So you will be putting in the work. You will be dutiful. You will be like, organized and doing the things that you need to do, and you'll have the energy that you need to get things done. So best of luck to all of you Virgos out there. Next up, we have Libra, and Libra is in the seventh house. This is where we're going to see these activations for Libra rising. So for Libras, it's going to be in your house of relationships and partnerships, or roommates, or people that you are relating to on a regular basis in your life. So it could also include family members as well, or any other kind of partnership, business partners, or any, school, like if you're a student and you have like partners, that you're working on projects for in school or anything like that. It has to do with all of those things. And marriages, and also has to do with our other partner, which is our shadow self, the other side of ourself, the self that we kind of like to put down and hide, and we don't want anybody to see. So getting to understand the other side and incorporating it within us, having something new, maybe a new way of relating, a new way of doing things, maybe some new boundaries, maybe some new things that you're kicking off with this partnership. That's where you're going to kind of sort of see some of the energy for newness. It could be if your relationships have been a little bit rough, and for Libra risings, it probably has, because remember, Venus has been in her fall this whole time when she's in Aries, and thankfully this upcoming week she'll be in Taurus, which is her home space, so she's going to be back together. So for Libra risings, if your kind of heart-based things and partnerships and relationships have been like, definitely understand that. It's getting better. With that being said, though, and starting new things. So if it's been a little bit stressed, you might be starting a new way of doing things, a new way of relating, a new way of just being. Know that you're going to get support from the ninth house. So that could be support from foreign things or foreign people. It could be like a helper. It could be a therapist. It could be somebody that's outside of the circle that comes in to support and to help. It could be education that you're getting that helps you like put your things into perspective. It could be like reading a book on relationships or love languages, or something that suddenly like shifts how you feel about your partner. It could be leaning more into your sense of adventure. It could be like spirituality, religion, all of those things will help support you in how you relate to people and how you also relate to your shadow self. Things that are going to be challenging, though, is coming from the fourth house, and that has to do with like home and family and your responsibilities for that. So home definitely can have a lot of power dynamics. You can have a really great power base from home where you're getting your power from there, but home can also be incredibly depleting, especially when it comes to your relationships. So it could look like a change in a home situation. So it could be moving, it could be just cleaning up or renovating, reorganizing your home so that it's more livable, so that it like supports your lifestyle. Something that will be supportive is Jupiter in the fifth house. So the fifth house of pleasure, the fifth house of creativity, of children, and all of those things will be supportive. So as you're going through kind of bettering your relationships and reorganizing how you react with your inner self, your shadow self, and in all of the relationships in your life, know that you will have support from family with that. A lot of this stuff that has to do with Libra seems like it has a lot to do with like your personal life and your personal relationships and your family and your boyfriends, your girlfriends, and just all, and your husbands and wives, all of those type of people, anything and everything that has to do with that. You're going to see that you'll have some support in that. Venus always wants to balance and harmonize everything. That might be a little bit of a challenge because of this Plutonian aspect, where Venus is also square Pluto, and she's also in a fallen state. So that might just make it a little bit more rough than normal. So best of luck, Libra. Scorpio in the sixth house is the house of health and wellness. house of potential detox, preventative medicine, anything that you're taking action about your home and your work routine. So you're going to see this focus on like health things and like, you know, being the better person that you can be and getting yourself healthy, getting yourself back on board, a lot less toxins in your body, a lot more fruits and veggies, maybe getting into a new exercise routine or just getting organized in your life and making sure that you have all the things together in place that you want to have them in place so that you can get things done, because, you know, Virgo energy is all about like getting things done. So sometimes it can be an obsessive quality to this, like where you're just focusing so hard on like perfecting everything and getting everything done that it just gets to be like all consuming. So you just want to be careful of that and balancing your time to relax as well. What'll be supportive of this is Mars in the 8th house. So you want to just make sure that you're taking care of all of your karmic debts or your physical debts, or that all your financial things are, you know, together, and they should be very supportive of you. You might actually come into some money. So if you applied for a loan, it looks like, you know, you might be receiving that. Or if you were even trying to get on a payment plan, you know, to try to like pay off things because money's in a little bit of a tight space, you might find that you're able to kind of sort of work off that. So these, you know, 8th house stuff is shared resources, and the shared resources are in a strong place in the sextile. So whatever kind of shared resources you have is going to work to your benefit. The challenge is going to come from the 3rd house, and the 3rd house has to do with your peers and your siblings and the communication. So you being able to communicate what you want and communicate how you want it, and the power dynamics between possible family members or siblings and things like that might somehow come to play with this and be a challenge in what you're trying to accomplish. A support system with this, with Jupiter in the 4th house, is you might be looking at a change in scenery, which might be supportive of you. So a change in the home, a change in a new relationship, a change in a specific aspect of your home, a new responsibility that you have, or just a new chapter that is happening with your family. Like you had a big shift and a change, and so that is happening. And it's just going to be supportive of your new lifestyle. So best of luck to you, Scorpios. And next up we have Sagittarians. Sagittarians, this stellium is happening in your 5th house. This is the house of creativity, the house of pleasure, the house of children. So we're looking for some new energy in regards to that, a new plaything that you're doing, maybe a new romance, maybe a rekindled romance, potentially a new child, potentially a new creative project. I'm really feeling good about how you can cultivate all of those beautiful feelings of fun and warmth and togetherness in your life. What will be supportive of that is your 7th house. So your partnerships are going to be supportive of this thing that you want to create in your family, whether that be just a new way that you guys do things, a new Saturday fun days, or however it is that you do a new little person that you're bringing into your life. Partners will be supportive of that. The challenge with this is going to be Pluto square in your 2nd house, change potentially in income, change in possessions, change in the things that you have, change in your assets, change potentially in monetary things or the amount of money that you're making. You might have some kind of, you know, shifts within that. Pluto brings about those kinds of shifts that, you know, death, rebirth, potential power struggles with like your assets or the physical things that you have, you know, physically where you're staying, all of those things that provide security. So that's what's going to be a little bit challenging at this time. So the thing that'll be supportive is Jupiter in the 3rd house. So with Jupiter in the 3rd house of communication, that'll be supportive because you'll be able to problem solve and figure out some of these things, to talk about it. You might have siblings also be supportive of you during this time as you're making these like transitions and these changes, especially maybe when it has to do with the 2nd house stuff, when it comes to do with house or money and finances, leaning a little bit more on your partnerships and your family members and in support of the things that you're trying to bring about and change would be a good thing. So best of luck to you, Sagittarius. All right, so next up we have Capricorn. This is happening in your 4th house, the house of home life, family, and new relationships. It could be a new way of supporting or improving your family, Capricorn rising. So that is all the energy of this stellium, this newness is happening in the 4th house. Where you'll get support in this is in the 6th house. So your daily routines, the things that you're doing day to day, how you're taking care of yourself, how you're exercising, how you're delegating responsibilities are going to be a way that is supporting the newness of your 4th house. 4th house new things are interesting because it could mean a child moving out. It could be bringing in a child potentially. It could be like just a different change in the dynamic of your family, and what that means. Also, what are the things that you can do to support your family? And a lot of times that has to do with like how you're supporting yourself, because that's sixth house things. It's hard to support everyone else unless you yourself are supported. So getting up a little bit earlier, taking care of yourself, so then you can take care of everybody else would be. Pluto in the first house, the challenge comes from you thinking that you cannot do it. So the first house stuff has to do with like essentially who you are, or the embodiment of who you are. So a challenge in thinking that you're not able to do it because you're not qualified, because you don't have the physical things that you need to do in order to create the newness that you want in your family. Like if you don't get your personal time, you're not able to do that. So that would be the challenge, which is why I think the sixth house stuff is going to be important to get you over the hump, because you just need to get on a regular schedule. Because if you can just get on a regular schedule and take care of yourself, then you'll be able to take care of your family and do the new things that you have to do with your family. Another thing that's going to be supportive with that is going to be Jupiter in the second house, which means that the finances are good and they're in a stable place, and your income is stable. And, you know, with Jupiter there might be even more abundance. So it's not for a lack of financial things that you're not able to take care of to balance this kind of your personal self and the family dynamic. It's just something that actually is going to take work and it's going to take some organization to be able to do. So best of luck to you, Capricorn. So Aquarius, this is happening in your third house. Your house of relationships to your siblings, your house of communication, a house of commerce, or things that repeat, that go kind of back and forth. School, potentially education, some new things around that. If it was like a shorter course or smaller course, and your environment, your physical environment that's around you. So what will be supportive? Mars in the fifth house, that might come from creativity, from your children, from your home life, from the things that you're passionate about, from the things that you love. That will support you and embarking on your new kind of third house venture that might have to do with a family, with siblings, or might have to do with communication or how you're communicating. You're potentially writing a book. Whenever we have kind of third house activations, that could be writing and getting information out there for people to know. So you might find the fifth house of family and or pleasure or fun to be like learning how to do that creative, you know, communicative thing through the lens of pleasure and fun or lightness, which also has to do with like children, or romance perhaps. The challenge is going to come from the 12th house, which a lot of times has to do with your enemies, what is called your open enemies, or from your exclusion and from your feelings of maybe feeling powerless or not well, or having that kind of crisis of self. So Pluto is in your 12th house, so that's a more isolated feeling. So even though you want to kind of communicate, there is this sense of like being isolated because that's Pluto in the 12th house. So that's what is going to be a little bit of a challenge as you're having this kind of crisis of self, but you're still wanting to put out something, and as you're relating to your family and so forth. Jupiter is in the first house, so like knowing who you are is important, knowing what you stand for, and or your physical self or your physical health is going to be, you know, in a good place. It just looks like it could be a mental health thing. So physically you're feeling good, your family and everything is supportive and good, and you're trying to get out this new thing in terms of communication or writing or relationships, or even a new class. But the thing that's getting in your way is what's going on in the mind, what's going on with like your essential sense of self. So using these energies together so you can get over that hump is going to be important. So best of luck to you, Aquarius. And last but definitely not least is Pisces. Pisces, this activation is happening in your second house. So for your second house, Pisces, that looks like things that are assets, your money, your physical home, creating something new in that. Carving out a newness in that. It could be a new home. It could be a new way, a new loan. If you took that out, it could be a new responsibility in your home or a new responsibility in terms of money. You're going to be focusing on securing yourself financially. So it could just be a new way of relating to your money and a new way of relating to security for yourself. If you feel like you've been kind of like flying by the seat of your pants, maybe now you're actually locking in and you're like, no, I want to kind of sort of build up some wealth for myself, and this is the way that I'm going to do it. You might see some activation in that. The the thing that's supportive for you is Mars in the 4th house. So it's really motivating you to kind of sort of get everything in order, and your family and your home and your private life, all of those things will be supportive of getting that done. So you'll find the support in that, whether that be a monetary thing or whether that just be people that are helping you do that and support that. You'll find that. The challenge though will be in your 11th house, and that's going to come from your groups and your networks. That could look like something like people asking for money, people needing things, or people needing time, which kind of takes away from the focus that you're doing. Or is the network that you're involved in, whether it be like a business or a job or your clients or something, is that actually aligning with what you want to do financially? If you find yourself in your network and you're just like, you know what, I'm not really making money with this thing, I need to shift and think of something different. Those are something that you're going to be think of. So think of the ways in which your networks and your groups can kind of sort of pull you away from the goal, you know, that you're trying to achieve with your financial abundance and stability. One of the things though that will also support too is Jupiter in the 12th house, which is focusing on your mental health and wellness. So you've been kind of going through this anyway. You've had that, you know, big stellium a few months back where, you know, you were having that dark night of the soul moment, essentially that Taurus rising is currently having right now. So you've done a lot of that personal work. So you have a better sense of who you are. You have a better sense of your well-being and what it is that you need to be, like, you know, emotionally like healthy and well. And so what it might look like is just taking the time that you need to isolate from things that are toxic to you or things that are not good for you. A lot of times we see that we just, you know, like letting go of the things that are not working so that you can focus on like the tangible things, because there's been a lot of time you've been spending in this kind of heady spiritual space, and now with this stellium happening in your 2nd house, it is tangible things. It is money, it is house, it is food, it is the things that, you know, all the tangible things in your life. So you're kind of moving away from this head space into the tangible things. And so as you're thinking about those things, you know, now that you have like things in a little bit better space, you're able to focus on that. So best of luck to you, Pisces risings. All right, well, that is your new moon in Aries horoscopes for this particular lunation. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you feel empowered by this. Make sure you subscribe and like and share it with other people if you think that they would get some value out of it. If you have any questions, just make sure you put them in the comments below. You can find me, Kaylani, at The Wild Wahine. The Wild Wahine is the name of my company. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. If you're interested in booking a birth chart reading, also known as a natal chart reading, you can do that at www.thewildwahine.as.me. Thank you guys so much and have a beautiful lunation. Bye.